Hi everyone, I'm DeMarco here, General Manager at DeMarcoSports.com, and this is going to be your Sunday video report. I'm going to break down the LSU-USC game for you and also give you a complimentary play on the early baseball card for Sunday too. But first, before we get started, let's take a quick review of the Saturday college football card. I told you going into Saturday that you should not shy away from the big double-digit favorites. And I was talking about 30 points or more because, as I've told you repeatedly over the last 22 years doing these videos, that the odds makers don't know anything more than you or I going into the first week of the season. And ultimately, we have the edge the first couple of weeks because the lines are ultimately going to be the softest of the entire year. Now, the odds makers will naturally catch up by week number 3, but we have the edge. And a lot of people will say, oh my God, why are you betting 30 plus point favorites? Because generally those are Power 4, Power 5 conference teams playing the little sisters of the poor. Why not? Now, the caveat is you've got to consider whether these teams have exceptional depth, because most times it's those second and third stringers who are going to be on the field determining whether you cover. But you have to understand that those guys that are second string at those major college conference power schools would be starting for those little sisters of the poor, and they'd be superstars for those teams. So I had isolated 8 teams, which were 30 point or more favorites that I thought were the best choices in week number 1. And how did they do? Well, Oklahoma was my pick on Friday night, and the Sooners got the job done, a 42.5 point favorite, beating Temple by 48. The others, Central Florida, getting the job done against New Hampshire. That was a winner on Friday. And then we came to the Saturday card. Well, my best bet happened to be Oregon, and the Ducks were certainly a dud. Here on the video report, I hit 3 out of 4 complimentary plays. What was my top complimentary play? It was Tennessee. Why the Volunteers? A 38.5 point favorite who won over Tennessee Chattanooga by 66? Because as I always mention, the complimentary plays are, jokingly I say, the best of the worst. But in reality, when I handicap a card, I narrow down the field, I pick my best bet, and everything else is relegated to free pick status. And Tennessee was my second favorite choice behind Oregon yesterday. Now, did I make a bad choice? You betcha I did. But unlike a lot of handicappers who will whine about, oh my God, I keyed the wrong play, to paraphrase Tom Hanks as Jimmy Dugan in A League of Their Own, there's no crying in football or gambling or handicapping. You make the choice and you live with the decision. And if you can't live with the decision, why the hell are you gambling in the first place? Listen, my other choices among the big 30-point favorites, how did they do? Well, I won every single one of them when I handicapped the games, but that's life. I mean, Alabama crushing Western Kentucky, Purdue over Indiana State, Arkansas over Arkansas Pine Bluff, Ole Miss destroying Furman. These were all 30-point favorites that rolled to easy covers. Now, there were a lot of other 30-point favorites, but something you have to consider, did Missouri and Utah and Army and Texas and Northern Illinois and Marshall and East Carolina all get covers too among a plethora of other teams? Sure. But why would you ever bet the majority of those teams in the first place laying those big points? Because A, they didn't have potent offenses. B, you had no idea about the quality and the depth of their second and third stringers. And C, you would be crazy to be laying 43.5 points with South Florida against Bethune-Cookman, because do you have any idea about the Bulls? I sure the hell didn't. And then you had other teams that failed to get the job done because, again, why in the hell would you ever be laying 30 plus points with teams like Tulsa and Navy and Cincinnati and Iowa State and on I could go, who never came close to covering those big numbers? So it's just something to remember as you go forward, even in week number 2, but in future seasons, when I assure you I will not be here to give you this betting advice. So with that being said, let's get going here. Oh, by the way, the other complimentary plays yesterday again, 3 out of 4. And in August, I went 6-2 with my preseason and college football releases combined. And to open the first month of the season, hitting 6 out of 8 in football, I can live with that. Now, this game between LSU-USC tonight, I think it's one of those games that you watch and it's so damn hard to pick it because after handicapping the game, I can sit here and tell you, I don't know. I mean, I can find reasons to back LSU and I can find just as many reasons to bet USC. And it's like if you have two kids trying to tell me which one you like more. And some of you out there may be able to tell me exactly which one you like more, but that's a conversation for another day. Listen, you've got an LSU team that, of course, lost, three quality guys on offense, and you know who I'm talking about, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr., all in the NFL now. But you've got a hell of an offense that's going to be quarterbacked by redshirt junior quarterback Garrett Nussmeier now, who, of course, was the MVP of the ReliaQuest Bowl win against Wisconsin last year with 395 yards and three touchdowns. You've got a decent running back room. You've got an experienced offensive line with four starters back. You still have a strong receiving crew present from Baton Rouge as well. On the other side, USC lost that guy. Who was that quarterback? Williams? Yeah. But listen, they're going to go with Miller Moss, who took over when Williams decided he was going to protect himself and not play in a worthless bowl game. And all Miller Moss did was go 23 for 33 for 372 yards and six touchdowns in the Holiday Bowl against Louisville. Now, granted, Louisville had no defense, so again, Miller also is going to have a lot of offensive talent surrounding him, and he's going to be working in Lincoln Riley's system that is built for quarterbacks to excel. The problem with both of these teams is defensively they sucked last year, and that's why both of these teams have new defensive coordinators. In fact, Brian Kelly at LSU cleaned house with his defensive staff and brought in everybody new. But does that mean that new schemes and new imported defensive coordinators and a lot of new incoming talent via the portal or recruiting is going to suddenly transform either of these teams and make them even slightly better at the outset of the season? I'm not too sure. I mean, you have an LSU team that allowed 28 points and 417 total yards per game last year, 6.23 yards per play. That was 98th in the country. You have a USC team that allowed 34 points a game on average last year and 433 yards, 6.12 yards per play, 90th in the country. Both of them, of course, came from powerhouse conferences in terms of their opponents having potent offenses in the SEC and the then Pac 12, respectively. You have a Brian Kelly team that has not won a week one game in 5 years. Of course, last year they were thumped in week number one and embarrassed, really, when you think about it, by Florida State, 45-24. I'm kind of surprised that LSU is a 4 to 4.5 point favorite in this game. LSU is going to have a hell of a strong contingent in Las Vegas present for this game. I do believe that LSU is going to be the favorite in terms of fan support here at Allegiant Stadium. This is, of course, where the Raiders play. I lean a little toward LSU. And in that particular case, I would naturally buy down the half point, and you can find LSU anywhere from 4 to 4.5 points. So although I lean a little toward LSU, I think, though, the better play would be the total because you're looking at 64.5. And yes, that total has certainly gone up. But you have a USC team that has gone over the posted price in 21 of its last 27 games. You have an LSU team that has gone over the posted price in 19 of its last 21 games. Have the quarterbacks changed in those stretches for both teams? Yes. Has the defense sucked for both teams in those stretches? Yes. Well, what's the constant here? Both teams are going to put points on the board. Both teams still have suspect defenses. 64? I don't know. I think the over is the better of the two plays, but again, I still think it's a game that's more worth watching than betting. And that's why my best play today is in baseball. Now, your complimentary play is going to go an early game. It goes at 12:10 Eastern Time. And I'm going to go with Milwaukee, which is a surprisingly cheap chalk at minus 115. I'm sorry, minus 120 to 130 against Cincinnati. The Reds have lost five starting pitchers. I mean, they are literally using a piecemeal staff here. And I can't, with 100% conviction, tell you who is going to start today. It might be Brandon Williamson making his season debut after missing almost the entire year with shoulder issues. He has made four recent Triple-A outings and pitched well with a 0.68 earned run average, but he's only pitched a total of 13 innings. So if he is the alleged starter, he obviously would be on a pitch count, and means an overtaxed bullpen is going to be seeing a lot of work. And this is a Reds team that has lost 12 of its last 16, and in that stretch has gone 1-8 at home. And then you have a Milwaukee team that has absolutely dominated the Reds, 9-3 this year in the season series. They've won 37 of the last 50 meetings overall. And this is a Milwaukee team that, of course, is vying for its playoff life, that has played very well, winning 19 of its last 28 overall, and has played well on the road, winning 15 of its last 21. Now, the Brewers are scheduled to go with Tobias Myers, a guy who has really come out of nowhere to be a very strong anchor to that Brewers rotation. A guy who has a 2.72 earned run average in 11 road outings, 10 of them starts this season, and he's proven not to be a fluke. And what I mean by that, when he put together a 1.44 earned run average in 5 June starts, people said, hey, maybe, it's just one of those things. But then he followed up with a 2.67 earned run average in 5 August starts, a 2.70 earned run average in 4 July starts. He is really the real deal. So I'm going to go with him. He faced the Reds once back earlier this season. He got a no decision on August 10th pitching at home, but it was a very strong outing. 7 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 0 runs, a season high 9 strikeouts, and no walks. I think Milwaukee is cheaply priced, so I like the Brewers here. And again, I lean toward the over in the LSU-USC game. Quick reminder, today, once again, you can save 30%, the biggest single discount of the entire year over at the site. It is made available today and it ends tomorrow. If you haven't taken advantage of the 1 day 30% offer, it's good for any mixture of picks and or packages from the handicappers at the site. Do so. And again, I wish you well, and we'll talk to you again soon. Good luck, everybody.